I figured to kick off Christmas Eve news, it's only appropriate to talk about the Grinch that stole anime. Okay, well, some people are expecting and looking forward to handing out presents. Sony is out there just gobbling up an entire industry because they want distribution rights. They want the say on how things are presented. And well, because they've done such a great job with the likes of Crunchyroll and their own proprietary studios. Oh, and also closing down Funimation. Wasn't that so great? Well, actually, looking at the people that work there, won't necessarily say that that's the worst thing in the world, but Sony is locking down its bid to buy Kadokawa as the anime industry faces an emerging monopoly. Yeah, very much so. Because that rumor that was going around ended up getting confirmed last week with Sony coming in, not buying up Kadokawa, okay, but just buying a massive stake in it. Rumors of Sony's acquisitions of anime and manga stalwart Kadokawa have proven to be more than ideal chatter. While there's been plenty of speculation about the possible sale for months, there has been a serious lack of official confirmation or concrete details about the deal from either company, and an unusual silence for the deal of this magnitude. However, according to a recent Yahoo Japan report, Sony confirmed early this month that it made an offer to acquire Kadokawa Group. Kadokawa had verified receipts of Sony's acquisition offer. The development indicates parties are currently negotiating terms, and yeah, they have arrived at those terms, but I want to lay a little bit of the background first, okay? Sony's acquisition of Kadokawa will be the largest disruption in the anime industry history. Yeah, exactly. Kadokawa will likely become a valuable asset in Sony's expanding anime and manga business. Renowned for its manga, anime, and video game properties, Kadokawa has long been an attractive acquisition target for larger companies seeking to bolster their revenue. Although Kadokawa has historically rejected such offers, its stance softened after the 2020 departure of longtime leader Shugohiko Kadokawa. I wonder if he knows that the company is named after him. According to Bloomberg News, after becoming open to the idea of an acquisition, the company indicated a preference for a domestic buyer over foreign suitors like United States Microsoft, China's Tencent, or South Korea's Kakao. Kakao? Sure. With Sony being the only Japanese company expressing interest, Kadokawa had made it clear that it is not opposed to a Sony acquisition. Sony's initial interest in Kadokawa's manga and anime properties hints at the broader ambitions in the anime market, which, to flesh this out, a Sony Kadokawa hookup has all the makings of a global anime monopoly. Kadokawa's tremendous influence in the anime stems to two key strengths. First, it possesses one of the largest manga libraries built through consistent production since the 1960s. Given most anime productions are adaptations of manga for television and film, Kadokawa possesses one of the world's most valuable repositories of potential anime source material. Yeah, so if Sony wants to overnight just blacklist or scrub anything from history, they would have the ability and resources to, and we know their censorious ways in recent years. The company frequently licenses its content to other producers. For example, popular Sword Art Online series is produced by A1 Pictures, while the fan favorite Full Metal Alchemist was produced by Studio Bones, and Delicious in Dungeon was shepherded by Netflix. And yeah, we just talked about that one. That was oh my god, what was that, Game Ranks? Just atrocious top 25 list. Oh. Second, Kadokawa maintains an extensive network of anime studios, including Raging Bull Studios, Studio Kadan, and Kinema Citrus. All things considered, Sony would own every single aspect of every major manga and anime studio that's out there, which, okay, that's what everybody was fearing. It's like, oh god, a total takeover. That's going to be so bad. And then it was announced, like I said, last week that Kadokawa and Sony agreed to form a strategic capital and business alliance. What do we mean right here? This is a press release direct out of Sony. Kadokawa Corporation and Sony Group Corporation today signed a strategic capital and business alliance agreement, agreeing to conduct a third-party allotment by Kadokawa to Sony on January 7th, 2025, with Sony acquiring 12,054,100 new Kadokawa shares for approximately 50 billion yen. With the acquisition of the new shares, Sony will become Kadokawa's largest shareholder, holding approximately 10% of its shares. So yeah, not a full takeover, but the type of takeover that we have seen in other gaming industries like Tencent's 10% acquisition of Ubisoft. And what are we hearing rumors out of that after Ubisoft ended up getting upended by the message. Now the 10% shareholder wants to come in and do a forcible takeover. Yeah. Elden Ring, Night Rain developer, yes, comments on Sony acquisition reports. And here's the other aspect of this. Well, we touched on the anime and manga, which is arguably bigger. I think probably the stuff that myself and you guys are a little bit more interested in, the gaming side of things. I don't really touch on a lot of anime or manga stuff like that. I watched one. Actually, no, I've seen a couple of animes. Okay, Dragon Ball. It's like I don't even consider that anime. That's just part of the entire culture. I know it's anime, but kind of transcends simple trappings. But Death Note, I think Death Note's highly overrated. Like you can cut all that FBI stuff and then everything after the tower. Like the entire show doesn't really get interesting until after the FBI stuff, and everything that's after the tower is just mind-numbingly stupid. Everybody talks about it as one of the greatest things ever, and it's like, yeah, okay, I like it, but it's not fantastic. And Attack on Titan, I actually just finished that last week or the week before, something like that. Like I had waited, like I was watching that stuff when it was coming out on on Crunchyroll. I don't know why that was so difficult to say, but I was watching that week after week when new episodes would drop. But I waited until the physical releases for the final chapters, the final two big specials, and boy, I was thoroughly underwhelmed by the conclusion. I knew ultimately how the story was going to end and all that stuff. Like I knew all the plot beats because the manga has been finished for a very long time. So yeah, I knew ultimately what was going to happen, who was going to end up doing the deed, and what the fate of most of the characters was going to be. But yeah, in watching the specials, it's like a lot of crying, a lot of exposition, a lot of characters not really acting like the way that I remember them. And that's, of course, maybe a little bit of a knock against me. It's been about 2 years since I've watched the series, and while I watched it through to completion 2 to 3 times, it's been a minute, so I'd have to refresh my memory a little bit. And I'm planning on that, and just have to figure out where exactly I'm going to fit that in. And then by the conclusion of the story, like I was underwhelmed by a lot of the visuals. Holy crap, were some of those slapdash, and it was just unacceptable for a story and for a property of that size and scope. But there was some stuff that happened after the conclusion of the story. Let's leave it at that. That took my opinion of those final 2 specials from a 5, maybe a 6, but probably a 4 or 5, all the way down to a 3. I hate it. I hate it now. The burning passion, which is why I got to go back and really refresh my memory to see if some of my hang-ups actually had the groundwork laid before everything went to crap. Because Attack on Titan, oh my god, all the way up until the conclusion of the 3rd season is fantastic. I like the Marley stuff at the beginning, but that also comes with the inclusion of Gabby, and it's the first time in the series where they add new characters that are just a strict downgrade to the overall story being told. It ultimately don't end up playing any sort of real role into the final conflict, but whatever, that's another video to do all by itself. Let's talk about some gaming and how, Kadokawa being bought up, or at least a significant portion of it getting bought up by Sony. What that has to do with the likes of, FromSoftware. That's another big aspect to this, right? Because Sony, as much as they want an anime and manga complete and total domination, they wouldn't mind a closer relationship with one of the most reliable studios in the industry. And FromSoftware, some Froftware? That's not even a word. FromSoftware's next big release, it's coming out next year, in fact, Night Rain, that was announced during the Game Awards. It's like, the Game Awards was pretty good, guys. You just want to focus on The Witcher and Intergalactic, which, those look like ass. And in fact, by the end of the day, we're going to be talking about one of those projects because, oh boy, they just can't shut up about that. But all in all, pretty decent show. Anyways, the director of Elden Ring, Night Rain, has given an update about the rumored Sony acquisition from FromSoftware's parent company, Kadokawa. Known for creating and popularizing the Souls-like genre of games, FromSoftware is responsible for developing Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and the hugely popular open-world title Elden Ring. This year's Game Awards, FromSoftware revealed is working on a new standalone title set in the Elden Ring universe, set to release in 2025. Night Rain is a 3-player co-op. You can either play, and I've seen this, and it's like, I appreciate them. Like, I don't really like Souls-like games or anything like that. Like that whole combat, the get good, sweaty stuff. It's just, it's for the kids with more time on their hands, okay? It's not really an aesthetic that lends well to my sensibilities. I'm not going to try to take your games away or anything like that. It doesn't appeal to me at all whatsoever. But this was cool, and this is why I respect FromSoftware, I respect the Souls games because they have a vision and they want to execute on it. They are planning a 3-player co-op game that you can't play 2-player co-op, but you can play standalone. It's crazy. It's either 3, 1, or get the hell out of here. I like that. I like how uncompromising they are when it comes to their approach. I wish more studios would take that approach because, yeah, they would end up getting that same type of goodwill while the entire industry is shrinking, and I don't think 2025 is going to be any more kind to the Western industry. There's one studio that is never and currently not under threat of layoffs whatsoever, and that would be the one that Sony just weaseled its way into a better position with. While development is continuing, the game's director has spoken about a potential Sony buyout from FromSoftware's apparent company. Junya Ishizaki, recently spoke to IGN about the details of the Elden Ring spin-off, along with a potential Sony buyout from FromSoftware. When asked if the deal is likely to go ahead, Ishizaki said, "To be perfectly honest, no, we just don't know right now at the moment where the discussion currently is at. If it's taking place, we're not privy to it." Ishizaki's answer indicates that any talks to acquire FromSoftware are being handled directly through the parent company, Kadokawa, which is, exactly what it is. And we talked about the amount of money exchanging hands on this one. But Sony, at that 10% stake, I would imagine they're probably going to try to get preferential access to a bunch of FromSoftware titles. You won't see such a strong partnership the way that Elden Ring had with Microsoft. I might be making that one up, but I thought that was something that was there. But potentially you could get more Sony exclusive titles from FromSoft in the vein of Bloodborne. Hell, I think this acquisition probably leans in the direction that, maybe a Bloodborne remake is something that could happen before we're all dead and buried. That you could be getting a proper Dark Souls remaster. I don't know if they'd waste the time and resources to fix DS2, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. But as Sony shuts down studios with a much more, let's just say, experimental approach, looking at you, Firewalk Studios with Concord. But hey, that was going to be the future of PlayStation, right? God damn it, man. Like I said, there's so much crazy shit to be talking about this week, and hopefully we'll get to most of it. But in simply going with A, what works, and B, what's popular, you can go ahead and give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Sony owns the console market, man. Xbox is going to look fundamentally different at the end of 2025 than they are going into 2025. What is an Xbox? This is an Xbox. Who is an Xbox? Where does the Xbox go to the bathroom campaign? It's going to be more further explained as just a way to shift over to Game Pass and infiltrating everything with an internet connection. They'll double down on trying to be the Netflix of gaming. And I hope it fails spectacularly, because turning games into content is, kind of push the Western gaming industry in that direction, but that's another topic for another time. But Sony flopping with the release of the PS5 Pro, holy shit, nobody is buying that console. But just, I don't know, man, maybe getting closer to FromSoftware, seeing what makes them tick, leads them down a path of understanding what works in the industry, what is failing in the industry, how they can learn from this successful strategy. But then again, here I am being wishful on such a magical day, hoping that a big corporation against all common sense and logic will learn the right lessons instead of the wrong lessons. What they'll probably end up doing is just making more first-party games that are just, rip-off of Souls-like, instead of profiting from software, just working their magic while they're still at the top of the food chain. Who knows, man? But with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.